Every human being carries inside them the power to change. This power is not magic. It is not something only a few lucky people have. It is a mental process, and like every mental process, it can be understood, studied, and improved. The psychology of self-transformation is the study of how and why people change their thoughts, feelings, habits, and identity over time. It looks at what pushes a person to want change, what stops them from changing, and what finally makes real change happen and stay. Most people think change is simple. They think you just decide to be different and then you are different. But real change is much deeper than that. It touches the mind, the emotions, the body, and even the way a person sees themselves in the world. Understanding this process can help anyone who wants to grow, whether they want to break a bad habit, build a new skill, heal from pain, or simply become a better version of themselves. At the center of self-transformation is the idea of identity. Psychologists say that people do not just have habits, they have identities that support those habits. A person does not only smoke, they see themselves as a smoker. A person does not only avoid exercise, they see themselves as someone who is not sporty. This is important because real change does not happen only on the level of action. It has to happen on the level of belief. When someone changes what they believe about themselves, their actions naturally start to follow. This is why so many diets, resolutions, and short bursts of motivation fail. People try to change their behavior without changing their identity, and the old identity quietly pulls them back to the old behavior. This means that lasting self-transformation always starts with a question, not an action. The question is simple: who do I want to become? Not what do I want to do, but who do I want to be? A person who wants to write a book should not just tell themselves to write every day. They should start to think of themselves as a writer. A person who wants to be healthy should not just plan meals, they should begin to see themselves as someone who cares for their body. Small actions, repeated daily, are the proof the mind uses to build a new identity. Each time a person acts in line with the person they want to become, they cast a small vote for that new identity. Over time, enough votes build a new self-image, and that new self-image makes the new behavior feel natural instead of forced. Another key part of the psychology of change is the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is a feeling. It rises and falls depending on mood, energy, sleep, stress, and even the weather. Many people wait for motivation before they act, but motivation is not reliable. It comes and goes like clouds in the sky. Discipline, on the other hand, is a system. It does not depend on feeling good. Discipline means doing the necessary action whether you feel like it or not, because you have already decided in advance that you will do it. Psychologists often say that people who successfully transform themselves are not people who feel motivated all the time. They are people who have learned to act without waiting for motivation. They have built small systems, routines, and triggers that carry them forward on the days when motivation disappears. This brings us to the concept of habits, which sit at the heart of almost every self-transformation story. A habit is a behavior that has become automatic through repetition. The brain loves habits because they save energy. Once a behavior becomes a habit, the brain does not need to think hard about it anymore, it just runs the pattern like a machine. This is both a blessing and a curse. It is a blessing because good habits, once built, require very little willpower to maintain. It is a curse because bad habits also become automatic, and breaking them can feel like fighting against your own mind. Every habit follows a loop. First there is a cue, something that tells the brain to start the automatic pattern. Then there is a craving, a feeling of wanting that pushes the person toward the action. Then there is the response, which is the actual behavior. And finally there is a reward, something that satisfies the craving and teaches the brain that this loop is worth repeating. To change a habit, a person does not need to fight themselves with pure willpower. Instead, they can work with this loop. They can change the cue, so the old pattern is not triggered as often. They can make the new behavior more attractive, so the craving pulls toward the new habit instead of the old one. They can make the new response easier to do, and the old response harder to do. And they can attach a real reward to the new behavior, so the brain feels satisfied and wants to repeat it again. Self-transformation also depends heavily on the stories people tell themselves. Human beings are storytelling creatures. We do not just experience life, we explain it to ourselves with a story running in the background of our minds. If a person's inner story says, "I always fail at everything I start," then even small setbacks will feel like proof of that story, and the person will likely give up. But if a person's inner story says, "I am someone who is learning and growing," even mistakes and failures become part of the story of growth rather than proof of weakness. Changing this inner story is one of the most powerful tools in self-transformation. It does not mean lying to yourself or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing an honest story that leaves room for growth, instead of a story that locks you into a fixed and negative picture of who you are. This connects to what psychologists call mindset. Some people have what is known as a fixed mindset. They believe that intelligence, talent, and ability are fixed traits that a person either has or does not have. People with this mindset often avoid challenges because failing feels like proof that they are simply not good enough, and there is nothing they can do about it. Other people have what is called a growth mindset. They believe that abilities can be developed through effort, learning, and practice. People with a growth mindset see failure not as proof of a fixed limit but as useful information that helps them improve. Adopting a growth mindset is often one of the very first steps in real self-transformation, because it opens the door to trying, failing, learning, and trying again without feeling destroyed by every setback. Emotions play a huge role in the psychology of change as well. Many people believe that change is mostly about logic, planning, and willpower, but in reality, emotions are often the true engine of transformation. People rarely change simply because they intellectually know they should. A person can know for years that smoking is bad for their health and still keep smoking. Real change usually happens when an emotional trigger meets a clear decision. Sometimes this trigger is pain, like the fear of losing your health, a relationship, or an opportunity. Sometimes it is inspiration, like seeing someone else succeed and feeling a spark of hope that you too can change. Understanding your own emotional triggers, and learning to use them wisely instead of being controlled by them, is an important skill in self-transformation. Fear deserves special attention here, because fear is often the invisible force that keeps people stuck. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown, even fear of success, all of these can quietly block transformation. Many people say they want to change, but underneath that wish is a fear that if they try and fail, it will confirm their worst belief about themselves. So instead of trying and risking that confirmation, they stay in a familiar and safe unhappiness. This is one of the strange truths of human psychology. People often prefer a painful situation they know well over an unknown situation that might be better, simply because the unknown feels dangerous to the mind. Real transformation asks a person to become comfortable with a certain amount of discomfort, to tolerate the shaky, uncertain feeling of doing something new, without needing everything to feel safe and certain before they begin. Self-awareness is another central piece of this puzzle. You cannot change what you do not notice. Many people go through life on autopilot, reacting to situations with the same old patterns without ever stopping to ask why they react that way. Self-transformation requires slowing down enough to observe your own thoughts, feelings, and reactions almost like a scientist studying a subject. This might mean noticing that you always eat sweets when you feel lonely, or that you always avoid difficult conversations when you feel anxious, or that you always procrastinate when a task feels too big. Once these patterns are seen clearly, they lose some of their invisible power over you. Awareness does not automatically fix the pattern, but it is the necessary first step, because a pattern that stays hidden in the unconscious mind cannot be changed on purpose. Environment is often underestimated in discussions about personal change, yet psychology shows again and again that environment shapes behavior more strongly than willpower does. If a person wants to eat healthier but keeps their kitchen full of junk food, they are fighting an uphill battle every single day. If a person wants to read more but their evenings are always filled with television and social media within easy reach, willpower will eventually lose to convenience. Successful self-transformation usually involves redesigning the environment so that the desired behavior becomes the easiest option, and the undesired behavior becomes the hardest option. This might mean removing temptations, placing helpful reminders where they will be seen, or spending time with people who support the direction you want to grow in. Human beings are deeply influenced by the people around them, often without realizing it, so choosing your social environment carefully is one of the most powerful, though often ignored, methods of change. Small steps matter more than big leaps in almost every case of lasting transformation. Many people try to change everything at once, filled with excitement and big plans, only to burn out within a few weeks because the change was too large and too fast for their mind and body to sustain. Psychology shows that small, consistent steps build stronger and more lasting change than big, dramatic ones. This is because small steps do not trigger the same level of resistance and fear that big changes do, and because small wins build confidence and momentum. A person who commits to reading one page a day is far more likely to build a lasting reading habit than a person who tries to read a full book every week and quickly feels overwhelmed. Over months and years, tiny consistent actions add up to enormous transformation, even though each single step felt almost too small to matter. Setbacks are a normal and expected part of the transformation process, not a sign that the process has failed. Many people give up on their transformation the moment they slip up, because they believe that one mistake ruins everything. But psychology tells a different story. What matters most is not whether a person will ever fail or slip along the way, because they certainly will, but how quickly they return to their new path after a slip. A single missed day of exercise does not erase months of progress unless the person allows one missed day to turn into 2, then a week, then a permanent stop. Learning to treat setbacks with kindness rather than harsh self-judgment actually helps people recover faster and continue their transformation, while harsh self-criticism often pushes people deeper into the old, unwanted behavior out of shame and discouragement. Self-compassion, therefore, plays a much bigger role in transformation than most people expect. There is a common belief that people need to be hard on themselves to change, that strict self-criticism is what pushes a person toward improvement. But research in psychology often shows the opposite. People who treat themselves with understanding and patience after a mistake are usually more able to get back up and try again than people who punish themselves harshly. Self-criticism often creates shame, and shame tends to freeze people rather than motivate them. Self-compassion, on the other hand, creates safety, and safety allows a person to try again without being crushed by fear of failure. This does not mean making excuses or avoiding responsibility. It means separating the mistake from the person's worth, so that a setback becomes simply information to learn from, not a verdict on their entire character. Purpose and meaning give self-transformation its lasting fuel. Change that is connected only to surface-level goals, like wanting to look good for a single event, often fades once that event has passed. But change that is connected to a deeper sense of meaning, like wanting to be a strong role model for your children, wanting to live a life aligned with your values, or wanting to overcome something that once controlled you, tends to last much longer. This is because meaning gives a person a reason to keep going even on days when the surface-level reward is not obviously visible. Finding your deeper why behind any change you want to make is one of the most important psychological tools available, because willpower may fade, but a strong sense of purpose can carry a person through very difficult periods. Support from others also plays an important part in successful transformation, even though many people try to change entirely alone. Human beings are social creatures, and our behavior is deeply shaped by the expectations and examples of the people around us. Sharing your goals with someone you trust, finding a mentor, joining a group of people working towards similar change, or simply talking openly about your struggles can make transformation feel less lonely and more achievable. Accountability, the simple fact that someone else knows about your goal and might ask you about it, can be a powerful psychological push to keep going, especially on days when your own inner motivation is low. Time is another factor that people often misunderstand. Modern life has trained many people to expect fast results, but real psychological and behavioral change usually takes far longer than people wish it would. New habits often need weeks or months of repetition before they start to feel automatic. Deep identity shifts can take years. This is not a reason to give up, but a reason to expect the process to be slow and to measure progress across months rather than days. Impatience is one of the biggest reasons people quit early, right before real change was about to take root. Learning to be patient with your own transformation, and trusting the process even when results are not yet visible, is itself a psychological skill that can be developed with practice. In the end, the psychology of self-transformation teaches a simple but powerful truth. Change is not a single dramatic moment, even though it often feels that way in movies and stories. Real change is built quietly, through small decisions, repeated daily, guided by a clear sense of who you want to become. It requires facing your fears instead of waiting for them to disappear. It requires building supportive habits and environments rather than relying only on willpower. It requires treating yourself with patience and compassion rather than harsh judgment. And it requires connecting your goals to something meaningful enough to keep you going long after the initial excitement fades. Anyone who understands these principles and applies them with patience holds within them the real, practical power to transform their life, not through magic, but through the steady, human process of growth.